Today we're installing the new Green Touch version 3 rack into this box truck. So it's the same as what you would be doing if you were installing into an enclosed trailer. The install would be a little different if you were doing it on an open trailer. The first step to this is we have to get the attachment points into the enclosed trailer. So what you're going to do is these little pieces here, you're actually going to bolt on to the bottom side of the rack. Okay, the next step is going to be our attachment to the wall. So these have a little bit of an adjustment to them that I haven't seen on some of the other racks. And you have 3 holes here, and then you have a selection of where you want to place this. So if you want it farther out from the wall, you can use these outside holes. If you want it closer in, you can use your inside holes. I want mine farther out because I run the Edge Pros, and those stick out so much I need it farther away from the wall. You're going to be utilizing the Allen wrench bolts that you find in here. There is a washer and a nut for them. Now we got to install the upper bracket. This is the same bracket as like what we have down here, but it's designed to be around the shaft of the actual trimmer rack to hold your middle section. Same thing on this upper bracket. You're going to have the angle bracket, and this is what goes into the wall. And you're going to set it at whatever setting you have down here. Like I'm pushing it farther out, so I'm going to do the same thing here. So the next thing we're going to install, these are the starting brackets of the engine supports. They're going to go here all the way up the line, and then there'll be another piece after this that goes out and actually supports the engine. Now each engine support bracket comes with a small bag. The bag has all the bolts that you need in it for the engine support. The rest of the bolts you're going to be using were in the separate bigger bag. So now the rest of the engine supports, what we're going to do is I'm going to leave those off, and it's just to cut the weight. Because I'm doing this by myself, I need to be able to hold this up once we're into the truck or the trailer to be able to screw these in. So I'm just going to leave that off for now. We'll get that on once we're in the trailer, and that keeps the weight down. So now we're going to move to the other end. This is the front end of your trimmer rack. So we're going to start getting this installed. It's the same thing, same process. We're going to put in the bottom one, same setting here, and then we're going to put in the top one, same setting there. So now we're going to be taking these racks into the truck, starting to get them mounted on the walls, and I'll show you how we do some measurements to get it correctly up there so that your weed eaters will fit in it. So the way I like to measure where my weed eater rack is going to be is I like to utilize the pieces that you put on your weed eater, because that gives you your measurement for you. So what I'll do is I'll kind of eyeball it a little bit to figure out kind of the general area that I want things. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mount this side first, and then that'll give me my measurement out there. So down here I do have the door to deal with, so I've got to make sure that I have it in far enough that the door will still close. So every application whenever you're installing these is going to be a little bit different for you. With this, I was hoping that these slats would actually line up in the correct spot, but because of the door, this handle was actually hitting. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to mount a board going up and down, and that'll give me a spot to actually lock these into at any height that I need them. These brackets here are that far apart, and I want to be able to hit into this board. So we really didn't need it to be any longer than this, but we definitely didn't want it any shorter. So at this point we can tighten back up the bracket here, and this was allowing us to kind of make that adjustment earlier, but we want to make sure we're tightening up everything on the rack as we go. So this is where I was talking about we can utilize our weed eater to help us make our measurement between the two. So this is what I'm talking about. We have our blocks in place where we want them, and now we can start kind of getting an idea of where everything needs to be mounted. Now as you can see, it would actually work to do it just like this, but because we're sticking out about an inch farther out on that end, we've got to go ahead and add that board so that everything's even. A little bit. So our next step is going to be getting our engine mounts installed for each weed eater as I go up. So I'll start with this one because I typically keep it on the bottom, and we'll start building this out and I'll show you how we adjust it. So now we're going to put our weed eater back into the rack. and then we'll start making our adjustments. Okay, this is a good example. These bars can be mounted either way. Right here, it's coming down and it's actually hitting against the gas tank. With vibration, that would eventually cut its way through the gas tank. So what we'll have to do is we'll actually have to switch this one around. The long part will have to go up and the short part will have to go out. So this is going to be the last one, and as you saw, as we went up, we did make some changes, whether we use the short piece down here on the rack side or the long piece, and it's just going to depend on your weed eater. The way your weed eater sets in the rack, you may have to adjust accordingly. Like this is a battery powered Milwaukee. I want to have support out here, so I'm using that long piece to come all the way out here to have that support. So guys, that is it. The install on every one of these, it may be just a little bit different. It's just like having to add the board here because this has the slats. If this was a solid wall, I might not have had to have done that. But every application is going to be a little bit different. You definitely have to check that out as you're doing your install. If you guys enjoyed this content, make sure you hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Leave me some comments down below if you have any questions about this install. We'll see you in the next one.